This evening's theme, manufacturing in Africa, minerals value addition in Tanzania Perspective. There's a report, I think, published in July of this year, funded by UK Aid, but also with input from various stakeholders from the sector, including the ministry. So, what are the objectives of the evening? I think it's to share highlights of this study with you, our members, but in particular to spotlight opportunities, especially around the priority mineral value chains, gold, graphite, rare earths, iron and limestone, and linkages to key manufacturing sectors. And then last but not least, mobilising private sector action by engaging you in defining next steps for investment, advocacy and partnership in minerals value addition.
Tanzania possesses many of the minerals that contribute to the clean energy transition, notably graphite, rare earths and nickel, used both in renewable technologies and more increasingly in electric vehicles. However, the country currently exports majority of its raw materials and much of their value is captured elsewhere. Now, if Tanzania were to develop clear strategies to attract more investment, tax revenue, industrial growth and jobs for Tanzanians here at home. So under the Mutual Prosperity Partnership between Tanzania and UK, which we signed over a year ago in April 24, we identified the development of responsible mining as one of the action areas needed to help drive forward inclusive growth that was required to both deepen our trade and investment partnerships, but also to achieve the economic growth the country desires to meet its Vision 2050 targets. So our Mutual Prosperity Partnership gets behind the government's Minerals, a Life and Wealth strategy, which aims to create value addition industries that will generate more jobs, foster innovation and economic growth in Tanzania. So to enable this to happen, we have a number of areas which we're working across in partnership. So firstly, promoting UK investments. Secondly, on geological mapping, the Ministry of Minerals has also got ambitious projects to increase high quality surveying from the current 16% to 50% by 2030 at the top of their agenda. Thirdly, on responsible mining, we've sponsored the Above Ground Advisory to develop an important report on current standards, environmental, social and governance standards in the mining sector.
With that scope in mind, we try to answer three questions. On the one hand, we asked the question like, what are the highest value critical minerals? So now I'm already saying critical minerals only, but also the strategic minerals in Tanzania. Then also, where is the highest potential in terms of competitiveness and economic impact? And then what actions are required to basically capture these opportunities? What came out of this is was the long, well, it's actually a short list, but it's still a long list of 14 high potential opportunities that could generate 7 to 11 or almost 12 billion of annual value for Tanzania and create up to 25,000 jobs. We clustered them on a short-term horizon and a long-term horizon. Short-term is 1 to 3 years, medium-term is 3 to 7 years. What was critical for us that in the short term, we saw basically the opportunity linked to gold to create, to start manufacturing jewelries in Tanzania, but also to go into ceramics, glass or cement production, as well as pulp and paper. Besides pulp and paper, most of these industries, like all of these industries, they are in Tanzania. There is really an opportunity of scaling the production. For pulp and paper, when we were doing this report, our knowledge was that it would be a rather new industry, but we do believe there's an opportunity to build that up rather fast. Then on the longer term, this is actually where still gold is relevant, but they're the gold bars that basically are just waiting to get the right certifications to be traded then on the international market. But I think what then also becomes really interesting, what you see are the critical minerals coming into the mix. So the spherical graphite, the copper cathode and wire, rare earth element metals. Why do we see them only in the second horizon? This is mainly just driven by the fact that the mining needs to come basically to a critical amount that it becomes viable to then do also the value addition in Tanzania.
What we really saw from the dozen-plus African governments represented at the conference, including Tanzania, was the push for critical minerals in line with the energy transition and this overwhelming desire to add value in country. And so obviously this report is pertinent on so many levels. And I think it's coming from more of a mining background. You know, we talk of life of mine, and we talk about, is the life of mine 10 years or is it 15 years? And we get very excited. But I think this Manufacturing Africa report really highlights the fact that how are we going to make generational and sustainable change from a finite resource?
To bring a ton of a sand from 35 kilometers from Dar es Salaam, from Kuranga to here, we pay almost 15 to 20 levies. We convert that using the natural gas that we have. At the highest cost across Africa, we own our gas. We are paying almost $9.5. Egypt is paying $3 a gigajoule. So how do we ensure that the minerals that we have, we convert it into a value addition and export and run revenue out of it? This is where the mindset, where the policy needs to be set right so that the investment can. All the fundings, everything will flow. But when the policy is set right and the will to enhance further mineral extraction from what we have is the game changer.
This is a significant study. And for those that were at the Vision 2050, there was this big vision about transforming Tanzania into a $1 trillion country with a per capita income of $7,000. But today, when I saw this, particularly when you talked about growing at between 9 and 15%, if you do growth, you take the economy as it is now, and you grow it at the minimum 9% annually, compounded, you get there. So I think the team here, you did your sums right. You need to get the right ratio. If you can get more than 9, and my contention is we ought to be growing at double digit. Then we can easily get to the promised land. So, but if we can generate revenues of 11.7 billion per annum from this activity and grow the economy at between 9 and 15%, yes, we will get to the $1 trillion. And I think that's important for the government to really realize that we need to make studies like this work. We need to get together, have a methodology for implementing them so that they don't remain on the shelf gathering dust.
Generally, I congratulate and commend the report. It has done very well, and I think as a government, we promise to take this report and incorporate in our strategy, because currently we are actually finalizing the critical mineral strategy. Definitely this report will make one of the very good contributions in that report. So for sure, we promise you to take all these good observations from this report, but also the comments from the audience. Definitely we are collecting them, and I assure you the government definitely will take into consideration and incorporate all these technical recommendations from the audience in order to improve our mineral value addition strategy. Thank you so much.